Ah, Smart Water, now in a sleek can.
This feels cool, literally.
Perfect for social gatherings and on the go.
Should I start wearing turtlenecks?
One sip at a time, friend. Smart Water cans, for those with a taste for taste. Get yours today.
This is the Roger Stone Show, presented by Colonial Metals Group.
A man who's gone through hell, but he's kept going, and he's smart, and he's strong, and people love him. Not everybody, but people love him and respect him. Roger Stone.
Now, here's Roger Stone.
And welcome back. Folks, we're talking about my 16th annual International Men's and Women's Best and Worst Dressed list. I couldn't get through the worst dressed category without talking about Sean P. Diddy Combs, a man whose clothing is always oversized and for some reason prefers these black T-shirts, the kind you buy at the gas station outside one of those motels out by LaGuardia where they go 3 for $20. At least at any rate, he didn't have walking around with a bottle of baby oil in his hands. Ellen DeGeneres, who always looks like a homeless person, usually in a hoodie and sweatpants. Sam Smith, this guy can't decide whether to wear men or women's clothes. He's, I guess, going for the zeitgeist of the outrage, but dressed either way, he looks terrible. And, of course, there's President Zelensky. Now, this guy is unbelievable. We've shipped him billions of dollars. But when he comes to address a joint session of Congress, he essentially wears a dirty sweatshirt and fatigues. When he goes to meet President-elect Donald Trump at the dedication of the refurbished Notre Dame Cathedral, which was burned down by leftists, he shows up in the same garb. Yet when he goes to the World Economic Forum to kiss the derriere of Klaus Schwab, well, then he wears a jacket and tie. I think this is disrespectful to the American people, and I think that he should show the respect of being properly clad. And then last and not least, Jill Biden. Can't tell whether her dresses are made from cheap kitchen window curtains or tablecloth material. That she is on the cover of Vogue. And that Melania Trump is not. Well, that's a political statement, but we all know the reason. And there's Stephen K. Bannon, my ally in the MAGA movement. He's like the resident MAGA hobo. I mean, I think he got most of his wardrobe at Goodwill. He's been in the worst dressed category before, but this year, I guess he thought that all black ensemble he wore to the New York Young Republicans annual gala, a great event, which I unfortunately had to miss because I had a conflict with the Italian American Civil Rights League Christmas celebration and awards event. But I really do think Steve dumpster dives for his wardrobe. If this is his attempt to look like every man, well, it's not working. Anyway, joining me now, however, is George Behizy. George got into politics after what we believe is the theft of the 2020 election and started advocating for election integrity. He amassed a very significant YouTube following, proving that the new independent media is king, leaving the legacy media behind. He has now he was banned at YouTube after a Soros-backed Media Matters hit piece against him, but he's back on a vengeance with X at Behizy Tweets. George, thank you so much for joining us today for the Roger Stone Show.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me, Roger. I'm currently in Washington, D.C., the den of liars and thieves. It's funny because when I was flying in, I got this gust of wind and this motivation and prerogative to suddenly start money laundering and voting to send money to foreign countries and doing everything that happens up here in D.C. So I'm very happy to be on your show.
So, George, we're talking about the rise of independent media. I think you are like Exhibit 1. You're a young guy. You're committed to reporting factually about world and national events. And there are more people reading your tweets than are watching Ari Melber at MSNBC, for example, on a regular basis. And I must say, there's been no time I go to your Twitter feed or your X feed, pardon me, and I don't learn something. So this really is proof that it is a new day. I thought President Trump's strategy of going on with the alternative media broadcasters was a brilliant one, attributed to his son Barron. But you, my friend, are moving public events. We're proud to have you. Censorship to me is the number one danger in the country, whether it's on the internet, whether it's in the search functions of certain large internet firms like Google, not to name names, or whether it is in the public square. What's your thinking?
Well, it's only been a few weeks since we witnessed Google suppress every positive story about President Trump and boost every negative story about him, and boost every positive story about Kamala Harris and deboost any negative stories on her. President Trump, about 2 weeks before the election, did an interview with Joe Rogan, which is one of the most anticipated interviews in the entire election cycle, and YouTube suppressed it from showing up in their search results. And, let's not even go back to 2020 when all of them took orders from the 51 intelligence officials, from the FBI, from the CIA, from all these government agencies to censor the Hunter Biden laptop story, which a lot of studies show would have definitely changed the outcome of the 2020 election had people known about that story. And let's not talk about the COVID censorship that took place. So I don't want us to forget that the censorship is absolutely one of the most important things we need to address. That's one of the reasons I came to D.C. so early. I'm going to be here for the inauguration, but I'm also going to be hopefully meeting with a lot of Congress people to explain to them that they need to do something about the censorship. They need to reform Section 230. They need to implement changes to make sure that these platforms, if they're going to enjoy liability protections, are not practicing viewpoint discrimination on their apps. It's not even an understatement that we rely on social media. If you're a local business, you can't scale your company if you're not on Google search listings for local businesses in people's areas. If you are not showing up because Google decided to censor you because of your political beliefs, you're going to lose business. It's an integral part of our lives, and all these tech platforms should be proud of the fact that they built products that we so very much rely on. And so now it's time for the government, our government, to regulate them as the public town squares that they are. I got banned from YouTube in 2021 after Media Matters wrote a hit piece calling me an election denier. And back then I thought it was a badge of honor to get banned by, the very people who are on the wrong side of every issue. I thought it was, them saying, you're so good at what you're doing and what you're saying, and you amass this following that we're going to ban you. I thought it was a badge of honor, but now I view it differently. I view it as that is a voice lost and a group of people that were watching me, getting information from me, no longer having access to the same information. So it's a bad thing when people get censored. And it's not just me. They banned the sitting president of the United States while he was at the height of political controversy in 2021. When people needed to hear from him the most, they pulled the trigger to ban him and pull him off of every single platform. Even Pinterest banned him. I don't know about you, Roger. You've known President Trump for a long time personally, but I don't imagine he ever had a Pinterest account or even wanted to have one. But they banned him anyways. So we need to absolutely address this issue before we get to 2028 and we have different candidates that are not named Trump show up without the clout that President Trump possessed to be able to work around the mainstream media and the big tech censorship. If we have a candidate,
I've got to stop you there. We're going to have to go to a quick commercial break. When we come back, George Behizy of Behizy Tweets and I will continue this brisk conversation about censorship. So don't go away.
This is the Roger Stone Show.
This episode is brought to you by Temptations Cat Treats. Your cat will come running for the perfectly irresistible Temptations Creamy Puree and Temptations Lickable Spoon Cat Treats. The best time to feed lickable cat treats to your cat is anytime. Feed by hand for a playful moment, in a bowl for a creamy treat, or as a topper to make mealtime fun. Visit TemptationsTreats.com to learn more.
Running a business comes with a lot of what-ifs. But luckily, there's a simple answer to them. Shopify. It's the commerce platform behind millions of businesses, including Thrive Cosmetics and Momofuku, and it'll help you with everything you need. From website design and marketing to boosting sales and expanding operations, Shopify can get the job done and make your dream a reality. Turn those what-ifs into... Sign up for your $1 per month trial at shopify.com/special offer.
Saturday presents, in the red corner, the undisputed, undefeated Weed Whacker Guy. Champion of hurling grass and pollen everywhere. And in the blue corner, the challenger, extra strength Saturday. Eye drops that work all day to prevent the release of histamines that cause itchy allergy eyes. And the winner by knockout is Saturday. Saturday, bring it on.
Your gut affects everything, even your mood. So Ollie created 2 brand new products to take care of your insides. Ollie Big 10 Probiotic has 10 strains of probiotics, their most ever, to support a healthy gut microbiome, immune system, and stress response. And Ollie Super Good Superfoods delivers 15 superfoods in tasty gummy form. Find them at ollie.com and exclusively at Walmart.
Ollie!
These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
Richard Nixon, Ronald Reagan, George W. Bush, and Donald Trump.
They went after a guy named Roger Stone, who's sitting in the office. And I'll say this in front of Roger, he's no baby. And right now, he's cleaner than anybody in this place. No, they treated him very unfairly.
All of these presidents relied on one man to secure their seat in the Oval Office. That man is Roger Stone.
Roger Stone.
This is the Roger Stone Show, presented by Colonial Metals Group. Now, here's Roger Stone.
And we're back. We're with George Behizy of Behizy Tweets, who is what they call an influencer today. He's more of a journalist than the journalists who claim to be journalists. I want to ask you about this, George, and that is the last-minute pardons so far of Joe Biden. These are the heinous criminals, the many, as many as I think 1,500 of them overall, 87, I believe, of them on death row, perhaps more. These are people who haven't shown remorse. There's no notification of their shocked families. What do you think is behind this? I think, first of all, if you're going to do a posthumous pardon, and Biden did some of those, has done none of those. He's done some posthumous Freedom of Medal awards. We'll talk about that a little later. But why not the early civil rights leader Marcus Garvey, a man who preached education, self-responsibility, free enterprise, clean living, the early civil rights leader who was railroaded by the FBI. Here I am in 2019 calling for a pardon for Marcus Garvey. I did this because, well, I was in the Strand bookstore in New York City, and I found this dusty volume about Marcus Garvey. I read it, and I was extraordinarily moved. Listen to this clip.
If you were convicted, you think the president would pardon you?
The only person I've advocated a pardon for is Marcus Garvey. So what's behind these pardons, George?
Well, the problem with our side is that we're applying analytical common sense and logic to decisions that are inherently foolish in every single way. There's actually no force motivating these pardons that these Democrats are making other than they want society to be more dangerous so that they can take more power away from the people. They want communities to be more reliant on them by making those communities more full of crime. bringing in more criminals back into civic society. That's what they're looking for. So the only motivating thing behind these pardons is that they want murderers, rapists, and every single bad actor back in those dangerous neighborhoods causing more trouble.
It is daunting that we probably have as many as 20 million illegals in the country. Some experts say it could be more than that. Others might argue that it's slightly less, but a disproportionate number of single military age men, most certainly disproportionately from either Asia or South and Central America, a very substantial number of Chinese. Many of these people, not all of them, of course, but many of them are hardened criminals, dangerous criminals. They have brought in an extraordinary number of weapons, as we have shown on this show. I also think, though, George, it is an absolute effort to change the makeup of the American electorate. In other words, if these people ultimately either vote illegally or legally, no election will be winnable by any common sense or any anti-establishment, anti-deep state candidate. They keep insisting that we're talking about replacement theory. Well, that's really, unfortunately, they themselves have admitted that's what it is.
Yeah, look at Springfield, Ohio. That was a town of, 30,000 people. Now it's 50,000, almost double the size. And it's people who don't believe like the locals that were there before them. They don't see the world in the same way. They don't know what freedom and liberty means because they're from countries where the government controls every aspect of their lives. So, there's no such thing as a great replacement theory. It's just a replacement. Right? There's no theory about it. It's happening. You have small towns that are tripled in size with people that have no lineage or actual legal connections to that small town. So it's another point we need to make here, that we need deportations, not just of the criminals, but of people that game the asylum system, people that were really seeking economic asylum and lied to our immigration system, saying they were being politically persecuted or religiously persecuted, which is what the asylum process was all about in the first place. If someone came up to immigration officials and said, I'm actually, in danger, my life's not going to be the same if I get deported back to my country of origin, so please let me into the United States, and it turns out that they were just political asylum seekers, they need to be deported. We need to deport every single person who gamed the system. That's the whole point. And you brought up a really important point about the voters that they're really importing. And that's exactly true. If Kamala Harris, thank God she did indeed win, we would be thinking about how many millions they would be making citizens and permanent voters forever. So you're absolutely right about that. It would have changed the way this country voted forever when a few million asylum seekers and immigrants in California were given citizenship. The state turned blue, and it seems like it's going to be permanently blue.
Well, I think you make a very good point. In fact, some cities like San Francisco and others have actually legalized the voting of illegals in local non-federal elections, which makes even less sense to me. We have just a few minutes to go here. George, let me ask you, what do you think, with Speaker Johnson now re-ensconced, what should the House's priorities be?
That's a very good question. The first 100 days are usually the most recognizable and set the tone for the 4 years. This Congress needs to absolutely be working every second of every day they're in session. We don't have room for endless debates about nonsense. If the bill is common sense, it needs to be passed. I think the most important thing is to get the budget under control, because that's what most people are saddened by when they look at what's going on in the country, the fact that we're running a $2 trillion deficit. We're spending all this money, so they need to do that. President Trump's tax proposals, eliminating taxes on tips and overtime, these were policies that motivated the working class to line up and stay and vote. So every single one of those policies needs to be approved by Congress. I know Senator John Thune, our Senate Majority Leader, recently came out and said President Trump's expectations need to be realistic. They need to be in line with his vision. President Trump doesn't need to be realistic about anything. He just needs to understand that he got a mandate from the people. And those senators in D.C. here need to understand that the people voted for President Trump, and they need to follow his policies and his vision. And that's it. There's no such thing as, we need to be realistic about what we can do. So Congress needs to speed run right through and get every single one of those economic policies passed. Now, another part would be the DOGE recommendations, the Department of Government Efficiency.
George, I'm afraid I have to cut you off there. We'll pick you up just a moment on the other side.
Mic check. 1, 2. Are we recording? Hi, I'm Michelle Bernstein, an award-winning chef, restaurateur, and mom. I have a lot on my plate, including my psoriatic arthritis symptoms. That's why I was prescribed Cosentyx. It helps me move better.
Cosentyx secukinumab is prescribed for people 2 years of age and older with active psoriatic arthritis. Don't use if you're allergic to Cosentyx. Before starting, get checked for tuberculosis. An increased risk of infections and lowered ability to fight them may occur, like tuberculosis or other serious bacterial, fungal, or viral infections. Some were fatal. Tell your doctor if you have an infection or symptoms like fevers, sweats, chills, muscle aches, or cough, had a vaccine or plan to, or if inflammatory bowel disease symptoms develop or worsen. Serious allergic reactions and severe eczema-like skin reactions may occur. Learn more at 1-844-COSENTYX or Cosentyx.com.
Ask your rheumatologist about Cosentyx.
This podcast is supported by Progressive, a leader in RV insurance. RVs are for sharing adventures with family, friends, and even your pets. So if you bring your cats and dogs along for the ride, you'll want Progressive RV insurance. They protect your cats and dogs like family by offering up to $1,000 in optional coverage for vet bills in case of an RV accident, making it a great companion for the responsible pet owner who loves to travel. See Progressive's other benefits and more when you quote RV insurance at Progressive.com today. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Pet injury is an additional coverage and subject to policy terms.
With so many options, why choose Arizona State University?
For me, the only online option was ASU because of the quality. Their faculty was really involved with their students and care about your personal journey. The dedication to my personal development from my professors, that's been extremely valuable to me.
Earn your degree from the nation's most innovative university. Online. That's a degree better. Explore more than 300 undergraduate, graduate, and certificate programs at asuonline.asu.edu.
This is the Roger Stone Show, presented by Colonial Metals Group.
A man who's gone through hell, but he's kept going, and he's smart, and he's strong, and people love him. Not everybody, but people love him and respect him. Roger Stone.
Now, here's Roger Stone.
And we're wrapping up with George Behizy of Behizy Tweets on X. Essentially an independent investigative journalist, a truth teller, Christian, and a guy who has a very lively feed and a real impact on what's going on in America today. George, before you leave, there are throughout the country, through the Red Apple audio network, literally millions of people listening to us right now. What is your final message for them?
Well, my final message would be that everyone needs to get excited right now because we're getting into a golden era. I know the news in the last few days has been sad. I mean, we're seeing tragedy after tragedy. We're seeing rumors and actual terrorist attacks taking place, and wars seem like they're escalating rather than slowing down. But Zelensky, the best-dressed man, according to you, came out today and said President Trump...
Worst dress.
Yeah, certainly the worst. Yeah, he came out today and talked about how President Trump was going to get that war ended. And it just feels like the world is moving into a new generation, a new era of peace, prosperity in this country. And in just a few days, we're going to see the inauguration of the 47th president of the United States. And we're going to see a golden era like we've never seen before. So
all right.
Get excited.
George, thank you for joining us.